Hey, what's up guys? My name is Ntombela and welcome to my financial education channel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing short-term rentals such as your Airbnb and Booking.com versus your traditional rentals that we know where you sign a 1-year lease and then you have a tenant for a year, right? So I've been receiving quite a few questions about Airbnb, so I hope this video will really be helpful. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and let's dive right in. So again guys, just as a pure disclaimer, this video is in no form financial advice. It's purely for entertainment purposes. I'm just going to be outlining the differences so that you can make a better financial decision for yourself. However, I will not be in any way trying to explain to you or tell you what to invest in. You need to always do your due diligence when you are investing, and then make your best investment decision based on what you have found out, right? With that being said, Airbnb has really become a tool that has made traveling so much easier than before. Traditionally, we'd have to use hotels, which are quite pricey if you think about it and you're really honest with yourself. They're quite pricey as compared to if you're just going to whip out your phone, download the Airbnb app, fill in your details, pay up front, and then that's it. Like, it was really having the hotel in your pockets, and it was really easy to use. I say it was because it's not really something that people are using right now, but let's assume pre-COVID, right? Assuming that this COVID-19 period didn't happen, and then maybe towards the end of the video, we'll now have a look at Airbnb going forward into the future and what we could potentially expect from it, right? So that's what Airbnb is. Now that we understand what it is, let's look at some of the pros and cons of it compared to long-term rentals. So one of the nice things about Airbnb, and I did it personally myself, is that the returns on an Airbnb apartment or house are much higher than you could potentially get from your traditional rental. If you are renting your 3-bedroom house to a family, you'd probably rent it for about 8,000 rands, depending on the area in which the house is in. It could range from 8 to 10,000 rands, and depending really on where it is, up to 30,000 rands. However, if you're on Airbnb, you're charging a nightly fee and charging a cleaning fee as well. And this fee can be significantly higher than if you were to divide that 8,000 rand by 30, which would be 30 days in a month, right? So if you think about it, when you are renting out your property on Airbnb, the potential returns there will always be significantly higher. I remember when I did personally Airbnb, I did it, but I did it where I was actually staying, and I moved out for a bit to go stay with a friend because it was closer to where I was working at the time. And what I realized was that the amount of money I made from Airbnb, which was me spending half my time there, half my time not being spent there, was probably about 2,000 to 3,000 rands a month. And I wasn't living in like a fancy house or anything like that, but it really was just a basic bedroom with a kitchen and a no lounge. Actually, that wasn't even a lounge. That wasn't a lounge, but with a kitchen and a bathroom, right? So I really do believe Airbnb returns are much higher than your traditional returns from your rental property. However, if we have a look now at the management side of things, when you are having an Airbnb, it really is tenants in, tenants out every 2-3 days, sometimes every other day. So that means that you need to constantly find a way in which you're going to hand over the key, take back the key, unless you are using a digital system, maybe where when the tenant arrives, they put in a key code, but majority of us do not have that realistically. We just have our normal keys. So the admin that is required, the constant cleaning that is going to be required, so the management of the Airbnb is much higher than management of your traditional property. Once you have a tenant that signed a lease, you don't have to constantly be there handing over keys. You only be there basically if there's a problem, a tap leaking, if there's something broken, geezer's not working, one of those kind of repairs and maintenance kind of things that are needed. that potentially you wouldn't really need to look after all the time when you're looking at an Airbnb, right? So I definitely do believe that maintenance with Airbnb is much higher, and it really is much more hands-on, which means now you probably have to get yourself a cleaner that's gonna clean, unless you are willing to clean after every single tenant comes in, clean the sheets, make the bed, make the place look brand new after every single tenant moves out, right? I guess another thing that you have to look at is when you are doing rentals, you have the risk of a tenant not paying, and then you have to evict them and follow the eviction process, which is a really long process that is very costly as well. However, with Airbnb, there's really no eviction process that you ever have to follow. Someone says they want to stay at your place for 3 nights, and then they stay for 3 nights up front, stay for 3 nights, and then that's it. You never have to deal with evictions. You never have to deal with someone not wanting to leave, because most of the time people are using Airbnb because they were on holiday or because they were on a business trip. So nobody's gonna come to your place and then just want to stay there and not move out, you understand? But however, with the long-term rentals, you do have that risk of tenants not paying and tenants not moving out, and then having to follow the eviction process, which is costly and it's also timely. That also takes a lot of time, right? One more thing that I think about as well is that Airbnb, you need to furnish the place. You need to have a couch, a TV, a bed, linen, like you need to have towels, you need to have cutlery, pots, you need to have a fridge, you need to have all these things in place, just like a hotel, so that when the tenant does arrive, they are able to feel at home, they are able to have that that first class kind of feeling. However, with the long-term rentals, you don't have to do that. You can have a vacant apartment, a vacant house, and the tenants will bring all their things. So you don't have to spend money with furnishing the place. You don't have to spend money with any of those things. And the risk, I guess, also with Airbnb is that once you furnish the place, that the people who come to your place constantly might damage some of your property. They might steal some of your cutlery if you have really nice cutlery. Those are the kind of risks that you are bearing, and you might have to replace that furniture and all the property that is within your property. You might have to replace it more frequently, which is also quite costly. Unlike with your rental, where you just have one tenant or a few multiple tenants, you don't really have to furnish anything unless it's a commune, where maybe you do have a common area with the fridge, maybe a TV and a few couches. However, that even then, it's not a necessity for you to provide all of that. With the Airbnb, it really is necessary for you to provide that. One thing that definitely also should be noted is that with long-term rentals, your income is predictable and you're able to budget more accurately, and your cash flow, you basically know what it is on a monthly basis because you know how much your tenant is going to pay. This is now assuming that your tenant is paying and paying you on time. So with that's definitely a benefit. With Airbnb, you don't really have that benefit because you don't know how many people you're gonna have booked in your apartment or in your house that month. You just have to hope and pray that you're gonna be booked. However, I do want to say that when I did Airbnb, I did get bookings very frequently, and from what I've heard from other people who have done Airbnb, they do get their bookings very frequently as well, averaging about 15 to 20 days a month. I don't think that's a bad prediction. That's a bad estimate to have. I think if I did it basically full time, I would have had more or less similar numbers as well. So that's one thing, predictability of your cash flow versus Airbnb, where it is not predictable, right? And then if you look at, on the other hand, if you look at Airbnb, you have the benefit of being able to actually use the apartment or the house yourself. So this might not necessarily be a benefit for everyone, but if it's something that's a very luxurious home or apartment, then maybe possibly if you are visiting in that area, or you just want some peace of mind, you are able to actually just book it yourself and use it yourself, just as a place to get away and have some freedom. You don't have the option of using the rental that you have. You don't have that option of using it yourself because you've signed a 12-month lease to someone else, and you can't just rock up and tell them, hey, I want to spend 2 nights here. However, with Airbnb, you do have that privilege of being able to do it. So now that we've looked at the two sides of long-term rentals and short-term rentals, I definitely do say that the short-term rentals are much more risky, but with the risk does definitely come the return, and it depends on the individual how risk averse and how much of a risk taker they are. If you want to be stressed every single day, I guess, then Airbnb, go for it. But then also it does depend on the location in which your Airbnb is in, and if it's priced correctly. Because if you get those things right, you're priced correctly and you're in a good location, then you will get bookings, right? So then you are kind of mitigating your risk in a way. However, you will always still have that risk of not having people come through. As we have seen during this pandemic, what happens to Airbnb? What happened to people who had purchased houses and apartments specifically with the intention of renting it out on Airbnb and not going the traditional long-term rental route? It really does become tricky, because now you have responsibilities in terms of your bond payments maybe, and some other costs that you might have associated with the house, but there's absolutely no income coming in. And I'm not sure, I think Airbnb is back up and running now, but are people really willing to go out and go to different locations? Not as much, I would say. Maybe towards the future, yes, it's definitely going to be more of a thing again, but in the immediate term and maybe in the next 6 months, I don't see Airbnbs doing really well. But that's just my personal opinion. If you disagree with me, hit me up in the comments below. I want to hear your opinion in terms of what do you think is better between Airbnb investing and your traditional long-term investing. I honestly do prefer the long-term investing, because as much as I'm a risk taker, there's certain risks that I'm definitely not willing to take, and the Airbnb ones are not a risk that I'm willing to take. Maybe sometime in the future I'll be there and I'll be willing to, but in this given moment in time, like I really am not interested in Airbnb investing. Purchasing a house, purchasing an apartment with the intention of having it being paid off by short-term rentals, the returns are high, and you could probably make double the amount, double if not triple the amount you'll make on your traditional renting. However, I just don't think that the risk for me at this moment in time is worth it, right? So what do you prefer? Do you prefer long-term rentals, or do you prefer short-term rentals? Are there any other pros and cons maybe that I've left out? Hit me up in the comments below and let's have a conversation about it. I'm always interested in hearing other people's opinions, even if you're disagreeing with me, because at the end of the day, I'm not claiming to be an expert in any means, in any way. As I always say, I'm just sharing my experience and things that I've heard from other people who might possibly be my mentors, or something maybe I read in a book, right? So hit me up in the comments below, subscribe and subscribe to the channel and like my video. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for getting to this far in the video, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Cheers.